I never expected my life to change on a Tuesday, but that is exactly what happened. On a quiet docking ring at the edge of nowhere, on a station most star maps do not even bother to name. My name is Dale Renner, and I fly cargo for a living. Nothing fancy. I haul grain, machine parts, medical supplies, whatever pays. I have been doing this for almost 10 years, ever since I left Earth to find work among the stars. Most humans out here do the same kind of thing. We are not soldiers. We are not explorers. We are just people trying to make an honest living far from home. The station I was docked at that day was called Varen's Reach, a rusted old trade post built into the side of a hollowed-out asteroid. It served as a stop for ships passing between systems, and it was run by a mix of species who mostly kept to themselves. I had just finished unloading a shipment of water filters when the alarms went off. At first, I thought it was a docking malfunction. Those alarms went off all the time on a station this old. But then I heard shouting, and I saw people running toward the lower bay, the one used for emergency landings. Something had come in fast and hit hard. I am not a naturally brave man. I want to say that clearly, because what happened next was not about courage. It was about not being able to walk away. I followed the crowd, mostly out of curiosity, and I saw the wreck. A small shuttle, barely bigger than an escape pod, had crashed into the landing bay. Smoke poured from its side. The other people at the station stood back, whispering, none of them stepping forward. I noticed something strange in their faces. It was not shock, it was fear. That told me something was wrong before I even saw her. I pushed through the crowd and got close to the wreck. Through the cracked viewport, I saw movement. Small, alive. I did not think. I just acted. I grabbed a pry bar from a nearby maintenance cart and forced the door open. Inside was a girl, not human of course, but young by the look of her, with pale blue skin and large amber eyes, dressed in robes that were torn and stained with blood. She was maybe the age of a human child of 10 or 11, though I later learned her people age differently than we do. She was breathing, but barely. I did not wait for permission. I lifted her out and looked around at the crowd, expecting someone to help. No one moved. She needs a medic, I said. An older Trellin man, one of the station traders, shook his head slowly. That is the vein sigil on her shuttle, he said, pointing to a faded mark on the hull. Whoever crashed her here was running from something. If you help her, you may be helping yourself into a war. I did not know what the vein sigil meant. I did not know who the vein were. All I knew was that a child was dying in my arms, and everyone around me was too afraid to lift a finger. So I carried her myself. My ship was not built for medical care, but I had a basic kit, the kind every long-haul pilot keeps for emergencies. I cleaned her wounds as best I could, stopped the worst of the bleeding, and gave her something for the pain. She did not wake up right away, but her breathing steadied, and that was enough for me to believe she would live. It was while I sat there, watching her sleep, that the real trouble found me. 3 ships arrived within the hour, sleek, dark, built for speed rather than comfort. I watched from my cockpit as armed figures disembarked, moving through the station with quiet purpose. They were searching for something. I did not need to guess what. I made a choice that day that I still cannot fully explain. Even now, I hid her. My cargo hold had a maintenance crawl space, barely large enough for a person to fit, used for repairing wiring during long hauls. I moved her there, along with water and a thin blanket, and sealed the panel behind her. Then I went back to my ship's controls and tried to look as unremarkable as possible. The search party came to my ship eventually. 2 armed figures, tall and covered in dark gray plating, stepped into my cargo bay without asking. Their leader spoke in a clipped, mechanical voice through a translator device. We are looking for a fugitive, a child. Reports say she crashed near this bay. I kept my voice steady. I heard the crash. I checked it out, but there was no survivor. Whoever was in there did not make it. He studied me for a long moment. I have never been good at hiding things, but something in my exhaustion from the day, my genuine worry, must have looked like grief rather than deception, because after a moment, he nodded and left with his men. I did not breathe easy until their ships had left the station completely. When I let her out of the crawl space, she looked at me with those large amber eyes, no longer glassy with pain, but sharp and aware. You saved me, she said, in surprisingly clear trade common. Why? I did not have a good answer. I still do not. Because no one else would, I said. She told me her name was Sal, and that she was running from people within her own court who wanted her gone. She did not tell me everything, and I did not push. It was clear she was frightened, and clear that whoever she was important enough for people to chase her across the stars. I got her to a secure comm relay 2 days later, one not monitored by the station's usual channels. She sent a message using a code I did not recognize, something old and formal. Within hours, a response came, and within a day, a proper fleet arrived. Not the dark, quiet ships from before, but bright, ceremonial vessels marked with a crest I had never seen. When the doors of the lead ship opened, I understood, for the first time, just how much trouble I had accidentally involved myself in. The being who stepped out was tall, regal, dressed in flowing robes the color of deep ocean water, with a crown of woven metal resting on her head. Her guards moved around her with practiced precision, but she walked ahead of them without hesitation, straight toward Sael. "Mother," Sael said, and ran into her arms. I stood there, awkward and unsure of what to do, as the Queen of the Vein embraced her daughter, who I now understood had been presumed dead after a failed uprising within their court. When the Queen finally looked at me, her eyes were sharp, assessing, and I felt very small under that gaze. "You are the one who saved her," she said. It was not a question. "I just did what anyone should have done," I said. "No," she said, her voice firm. "You did what no one else was willing to do. That is a very different thing. I expected thanks, maybe a reward of some kind, credits, supplies, something practical that a cargo pilot could use. What I did not expect was what came next." The Queen turned to her guards and spoke in her own language, quick and formal. Then she turned back to me. "Among my people, when a life such as my daughter's is saved, the debt is not repaid with wealth. It is repaid with something far greater. I offer you the blood right." I did not know what that meant, and I said so. Sael, still standing close to her mother, explained gently. "It means you are recognized as kin, not a guest, not an ally. Family. It has not been given to an outsider in over 300 years." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it seemed impossible. "I am just a cargo pilot," I said. "I do not need land or titles." The Queen studied me for a long moment. "That is exactly why it must be you," she said. "Those who seek such gifts are never the ones who deserve them." I did not fully understand what I was accepting that day, standing in a docking bay far from home, surrounded by beings whose customs I barely understood. But I said yes, because it felt like the right thing to do, and because Sael looked at me with such hope that I could not bring myself to refuse. What followed changed my life in ways I am still discovering. I was given a small emblem, worn on a chain, marking me as kin to the Vane royal house. It grants me safe passage through their territory, something no other human pilot has. It also means I am, in some strange and official way, family to an alien queen and her daughter. I still fly cargo. I still take on odd jobs across the quiet corners of space. But now, when I dock at certain stations, I am met not with suspicion, but with quiet respect, because word travels fast among the Vane, and the story of the human who saved their princess has become something of a legend among their people. Sael writes to me sometimes, short messages about her life, her studies, the small victories and struggles of growing up in a court still healing from betrayal. I do not know what the future holds, whether I will ever fully understand the culture I have been welcomed into, or whether this bond will mean more responsibility than I realize. But I know this. On a quiet Tuesday, at a station most people have never heard of, I made a choice to help someone, when everyone else looked away. And because of that one small act, I gained something I never thought I would find so far from home. A family, however strange and impossible it may seem, that I never expected, and would not trade for anything in the galaxy. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness lead to the largest changes. I did not save Sael because I wanted a reward. I saved her because it was right. But the universe, it seems, has its own way of repaying kindness, and sometimes that repayment comes in forms far beyond anything we could have imagined.